Good morning, this is Sissy with stampinwithsissy.net. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm here to show you this beautiful Mother's Day card that I made for my mother, who has held tea parties for all the girls in our family for the past 30 years. This A Mother's Flair stamp set is perfect for my mother. It's got this beautiful teapot, the hat, the purse, the shoe, and my mom's a wonderful gardener, and the flowers coming out just made it the perfect fit for her. My mom would never wear stilettos, however, I can use that for a lot of different things. On the front it says, "Life is beautiful because of you." And then this is what they call a Z-fold card. It's got the teapot and the flowers at the bottom and Happy Mother's Day at the bottom. I've seen these fun Z-fold cards on Pinterest and on YouTube and always admired them, but never wanted to try them because they look like they're a little time consuming and hard to make. However, I'm going to show you how easy it is and how fast it works out. Let's get started by going over the supplies you're going to need. A Mother's Flair stamp set, and the teeny tiny wishes. I used the Happy Mother's Day sentiment from the teeny tiny wishes because the Happy Mother's Day sentiment on A Mother's Flair did not fit on the card. The colors we'll be using today are Pool Party, Tranquil Tide, Versamark for the embossing on the hat and the teapot. I love heat embossing. I don't know if you can tell the shine, how shiny it kind of makes it look like patent leather. And also the Tuxedo Black Memento ink. I use the Wink of Stella on the flowers here. It kind of adds a little glitter to the project. Tranquil Tide Stampin' Right marker, just for the little ribbon on the hat. Light Pool Party Stampin' Blend marker, light Old Olive Stampin' Blend marker, and the dark Daffodil Delight Stampin' Blend marker. Pool Party Shimmer ribbon, and the basic rhinestone. For the paper, we need Whisper White card base, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2 and 8 1/4. Also, Whole Lot of Lovely Designer Series paper, the black and white polka dots from that series, and I added the black and white polka dots to the Whisper White card base before I did the scoring because I didn't want to mess with the 16ths and 1/4 inches and all that kind of thing. I just thought it was easier to score them while they were attached together. Also in Whisper White, we need 3 additional pieces, one that is 3 by 4 1/4 and 2 that are 2 1/2 by 3. We need a floral from the Whole Lot of Lovely Designer Series paper, that one of them that is 1 by 4 1/4 and 2 that are 1 by 2 1/2. You need clear embossing powder, and the black strip is 3 1/4 by 10, scored at 2 3/4 by 5 1/2. You also need snail adhesive and Terran tape. I want to show you a few of the tips I've learned while using my Stamparatus. These red rubber stamps are called clear stamps, even though you cannot see through them, and so it's a little bit confusing. But when you're using the red rubber stamps, you do not need to use the foam pad that comes with the Stamparatus. When you're using the photopolymer stamps, which are the stamps that you can see through, then you want to use this black rubber mat that the Stamparatus comes with. But for today, we're going to take that mat off. After using my Stamparatus, I've noticed that I had a little bit of trouble getting the very edges of the stamps, getting a clear image because of the hinges that are on the Stamparatus. Apparently, I'm not alone because I've seen some posts on Facebook and on Pinterest where some of the demonstrators are using just a piece of cardstock here on the edge, but I picked up this foam pad at the dollar store and cut it down to size, and I found that that works really well for me, and I use it with both the photopolymer and the rubber stamps. Now let's talk about magnets. These magnets are very, very strong. One day, without thinking, I put 2 of them a little too close together. they slammed together and broke. I didn't want to do a video with a broken magnet, so I tried to tape them together with duct tape and split both of my thumbs when the magnets kept coming together. So I do not recommend this. I find that having tape on them helps you to lift them up because, again, they are so strong. I've tried washi tape, and the blue is electrical tape, the gray is duct tape. I think the duct tape will probably be the strongest for the longest period of time. The jury is still out on the electrical tape because that's only been on for a couple of weeks. But I do highly recommend it. It just helps you pick them up. And that's all I have to say about that. Now let's get started on the stamping part of our card. I'm going to start with a hat. And sometimes it's hard to tell when you can't see through the stamp if you have it in exactly the right place. I purchased some notepads from Amazon, and the paper is kind of see-through, so it's easy to tell if you're getting the stamp in the right position. I just slide it under my project. I use the note paper as kind of a rough draft when I'm doing my stamps. Another trick I found is if you put a stamp set underneath the lid, it's a little bit easier to apply your ink, at least for me. It gives you a level surface to work with, and I find I make a less mess when I do that. Maybe you'll find that helpful. I really want to ink up this stamp because I want a nice, bold, solid image. Apply pressure. And that looks like good placement. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my paper. I can see I got a little image from the edge of the stamp, so I'm going to be careful about that when I'm doing the stamping on my project. Apply pressure. That's not as bold as I would like to see it, so I'm going to apply more ink. And because of this cool Stamparatus, I can stamp it again in exactly the same place. There, that's better. Okay, now it's time for true confessions. I originally filmed this video and did not realize that my computer was on mute, and so now I'm forced to learn how to do a voiceover, which I am failing at miserably. And the other mistake that I made was I should have added the sentiment at the same time I did the hat and stamped them both together. That would have been faster and easier, but as you notice, I took the hat off before I applied the Versamark. Also here you can see that I am using the grid marks on the Stamparatus to straighten these sentiments so that it doesn't turn out crooked. Stamping the sentiment. And that turned out pretty straight on the first try, so I can remove my paper and stamp it on the original project. While you weren't looking, presto, I was able to add the hat back in, and I tried to get it on as close to the original one as I could, but we'll have to see after we do the Versamark. So now we're going to add the Versamark ink. See how easy it would have been if I had done it right the first time? apply pressure. And now I'm going to use my clear embossing powder, but I'm going to move my Stamparatus out of the way because we don't want powder on this Stamparatus. I also wish I had used my embossing buddy, but I get so nervous when I do these videos. I always forget everything. Anyway, so I have to brush away some of the embossing powder that was where I didn't want it. I guess you can look at the positive side. You don't have to listen to the heat gun while I'm embossing the card. Isn't that beautiful? It's like magic to me when I see this embossing work. And I love Stampin' Up's fine lines, how clear and crisp they are. You can see how clear and crisp the sentiment is, even though I've used embossing powder on it. For the next part of our card, we're going to add the teapot. I'm not sure I like that placement, so I'm going to move it just a tad. Now I'm adding the Versamark. Again, I wish I had used my embossing buddy. I can see some powder on here that I want to kind of sweep away before I use my heat gun. For the final part of our card, we just need to add the sentiment with the Stamparatus. The flowers on this part are really simple to do, so it takes longer to do it with the Stamparatus. I don't know if you can tell, but the sentiment is kind of curvy, so I might have to fuss with it a little bit to get it, because I want it straight. And that's not so bad. Adjust it just a little bit, and we're ready to go to press. I like my sentiments to be really bold, so I'm just going to stamp it one more time. That's the beauty of the Stamparatus. You can go over and over your sentiments and get exactly the look you're after. I forgot to mention that I needed a small flower for here, and I got the flower that I used from the Tranquil Tulips stamp set. Any flower that you have on hand would be good for this, but that's the only small one that I found in my stamps. I'm not going to use my Stamparatus to put the flowers on. It's just faster and easier to do it by hand. When I'm layering my image, I always start with the darkest color first because it's easier to line it up if you add the lighter color second. Oops, looked like I had to move my card base over so that I could get my stamp in there. So right now I am stamping with the Tranquil Tide. With a Pool Party, I'm going to go in and add the second layer of the flower. Now let's put this together. You want to line up the long part of the black paper with the short part of the designer series paper, and just kind of line it up where you want it. And you notice that on the top piece, you're going to want to only tape a portion of that, otherwise you'll tape it closed. So that's how I want it to fold. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of get a feel for where I want to stop the tape. And then apply it kind of by where my thumb is. And then along the top. I'm using Terran tape, by the way. This is the strongest tape, and I just love how easy it is to use. I'm not getting glue all over my fingers and that kind of thing. And then add it to the bottom. And you can go across the whole bottom portion because you don't have to worry about taping it together on that one. Sorry, my hands went out of the video on that portion. And you want to really press down the Terran tape so that it adheres to the base and doesn't come up when you're tearing off the back part of it. Line it up carefully before you apply pressure to the tape because it's very sticky, and if you press down before you're ready, there's no way to get it off. Okay, remove the back off the bottom. Again, make sure you have it lined up before you press down. And there it is, the Z-fold. Wasn't that easy? And it took no time at all. Now we're ready to put it all together. I'm using my snail adhesive now. Some people just put it along the sides, but I have always put it along all four sides, so I don't know if that's necessary. Now we're going to add a little color to the flower. I'm using the light Pool Party. Now the light Old Olive for the leaves. And I kind of like the band on the hat white, so I'm not going to add the Tranquil Tide on this card. I'm going to color my rhinestones with the dark Daffodil Delight because I want the center of the flowers to be yellow. And while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to go ahead and add my Wink of Stella. If you've never used this, it's so wonderful. It just adds a little bit of glitter and sparkle to any project without the mess. I find my piercing tool comes in handy when I'm trying to adhere small embellishments like the rhinestones. The last thing we need to do is adhere the Pool Party shimmer ribbon along the side. And I always do this last because you want it to run in a straight line. It's easier to judge if they're all going to line up by having it all together. And there you have it, the Z Fold Mother's Day card. I hope this video wasn't as brutal for you as it was for me. I promise never to do a voiceover again. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you come back again soon. Bye now.